series, we're going to talk about trigger control and how important trigger control is for your accuracy and your fundamentals of shooting. So let's get right into it. Alright, so we want to be able to work the trigger correctly so we can get better shots on target. So 3 goals, and they kind of all go hand in hand. The first thing you want to do is to be able to pull your trigger without moving your sights. It's a lot of stuff that goes into shooting, and one of the main things you don't want to do is holding your gun, and when you pull that trigger, you want to just pull that trigger straight back, and that's the main goal, not move your sights. So if you're pulling the trigger and you're kind of moving the gun when you shoot, that's going to defeat the whole purpose, and especially the next goal, which is accuracy. All right, so if you're able to pull this trigger straight back without misaligning the sights, you're going to be more accurate. And then the third thing you want to do is to be able to, let's say in a self-defense situation, you want to be able to pull the trigger straight back without moving your sights as fast as possible. So you're going to work on your speed. So you get the fundamentals down, you work on moving the pulling the trigger straight back without moving the sights, and then you just work on doing that faster and faster until you can. So let's talk about triggers. All right, so let's talk about the stages of the trigger pull. All right, so I'm gonna use the Walther Q5. It is unloaded. I guess I should have showed you that the first time with the Legion. All right, so the first stage is the pre-travel, take up, whatever you want to call it. But what you're doing is you're pulling the trigger straight back until it stops, and what that means is you should have a what we call a well-defined wall. So you want to be able to pull that trigger up until you figure out where that wall is, and it should be, a wall. It shouldn't be mushy. It shouldn't be, and you notice on some guns it'll be different. You see how this one here, it kind of goes back a little ways. Well, I went too far. But like you notice, like on my Legion, it'll, it's not as far, not as much pre-travel till I hit that wall. You'll notice on, let's say on a Glock 19, that pre-travel, see, it's about right there. See, so it's different stages. That's why, when you first start learning to shoot, it's just kind of a way to just kind of learn your gun and learn your triggers. All right, so we got it to the wall. So the next thing you want to do is just push through the wall, and then this is what we're going to call the break, and this is actually going to be when your gun fires. So you pull it through that wall, you hear that click. That's simulate, that's your gunshot. So that's you pull it up to the wall, you break. Next you're going to do that to kind of simulate a shot being taken. So what you do is, while you do that, you keep the trigger pull all the way to the rear, and then you just slowly release it up till you hear the click, and that's your reset. That's the point where your gun is back at that wall and ready to pull that trigger again. So that's what you want to practice on. Just kind of work on your trigger press. Practice back, reset, back up. And those are the stages of the trigger. You got your pre-travel, your break, and your reset. Alright, so what contributes to a good trigger pull? First thing will be movement. You don't want your finger kind of moving all over the place, and it may kind of sound weird, but what I learned it is you just want to be moving the second part of your finger, not the first. The first part's on the trigger. You're going to be kind of moving this part back and forth. So it sounds kind of weird, but that's kind of, you just fingers on the trigger and you're just moving that part. So you're not moving everything, because you want this finger to go just straight back. So you're just moving that part straight back. And then you can just kind of even practice your trigger press, depending on, like I say, different guns are going to depend on where your finger is. You do want to kind of get that first part, where some people will get their hand all the way in there, so it may be a little different for them. So figure out, where your finger is going to be on the trigger, and then just kind of practice moving that trigger to the back with minimal movement. You don't want to be, and you don't want to do it different places. You don't want to shoot and reset and do it again. So just try to practice moving that trigger to the back with minimal movement. All right, so The next thing is how hard should you pull the trigger. Honestly, it may sound weird again, you want to use the minimal amount of force necessary to do the break or to hit the shot. So let's say we're shooting this and that's a 3.5 pound trigger. I don't want to be hitting it all, I just want to get it whatever it takes to hit that. So a lot of times you'll hear instructors say you quit mashing the trigger. It just means you just pressing it hard and just nah, you don't need to do all that. The minimal amount of force necessary to break that shot. So just take it and you can't even see my finger. Yeah, so yeah, you don't want to be mashing and pulling on it hard. Just, you know, whatever it's going to take to get that break, that's what you want to do. So you don't want to be trying to mash it or push it too hard. Just, you know, whatever force is necessary, whatever pound trigger you got, that's the force necessary to make a shot. All right, so finger placement, and this is mostly like for new shooters, kind of where you want, you know, everything we teach here is like a starting point where you want to get started at. So really what you want, I should explain this earlier, this part of the finger is on the trigger. You may start shooting and figure out that that's not where you want your finger placement to be. That's fine, you just work it out however you want to. But really what you, like I said, you want to have this part, the little meaty part, then some going to depend on how big your hand is and how big or small your gun is, where your finger's going to be. But ideally, you kind of want to have that, you know, kind of right in the middle, right up in there, that fleshy part. If you're shooting a gun and you can barely get it on there, then you may have to adjust your grip, or that gun just may be too big for you. I know a lot of guys have big hands and they may, you know, shoot a little differently because, you know, sometimes with the big hands, you can't always get it in there, so they may wind up, like I've seen guys use that knuckle, which I don't really like, or even use that second part and they're kind of shooting with that. So, but starting out, basically what you kind of do is just try to practice using that that middle finger. And as you become more experienced, you know, you can change, you know, get your grip more comfortable, get your finger placement more comfortable. But that's what you want to start off with, to get that finger placement, that first joint on the trigger. All right, so what can you do to practice trigger control? First thing, and the thing I always recommend anybody is just dry fire. Just sit there, you know, just practice. Take it, saying on too much. Take it in and just point it, you know, target on the wall, no target on the wall. First thing you want to do is really just have this gun out and just pull that trigger and make sure your sights don't move. You don't even have to reset it. You don't want to. Just kind of take it and just kind of practice pulling that trigger. You know, just practice on that. Make sure your sights aren't moving. And then do the same thing, you know, in live fire. Just go out, take shots. If you want to practice on accuracy and speed, maybe line up 2 targets and just kind of go back and forth slowly, taking your time. Like I said, you want to start off slowly, get the fundamentals down, and then work on your speed. So you know, just practice, man. Practice makes perfect. You see a lot of these guys on YouTube and they're sitting there and they're doing everything and they're looking all perfect. Those guys have been practicing. They did hours and hours of dry fire practice. So got a long way to go to catch up with them guys, okay? All right, so we talked about trigger control, trigger placement. So hopefully you learned a couple of things. If you got any suggestions, any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I think in the next series we'll be talking about how to improve your accuracy. Accuracy. Until then, you guys stay safe, shoot straight, keep training. We'll talk to you later. All right, dry fire.